I have been narrating stories for almost a year now, and I think I've come up with the best stories that I personally think are the best of the best.
Now, most of these stories are rather underground, but some of them are classic fan favorites.
The only stories allowed on this list are the ones that once TCR personally narrated.
So with that in mind, we present the top 30 creepypastas. Where Bad Kids Go.
In the story Where Bad Kids Go, we focus on an obscure television show that existed sometime in the late 60s, early 70s. Just like 1999, we take a look back as we begin to decipher what exactly happened in this very odd television series. You see, the TV show featured very uptight religious morals such as, keep your hands above the blanket, don't get up and eat late, or finally, don't use your left hand to open doors, amongst other things of that nature. At the very end of every episode, all you could hear is the crying as the camera zooms in on a still bolted door. As the show went on, the cries began to sound desperate, getting more violent in nature. So here we are, 40 years after the fact, and what we find behind the door can only be described as terrifying.
The Angel Statue. The Angel Statue is a short, creepy tale that begins with a teenager who is babysitting for their neighbor, who went out for a night. It's late at night, and the babysitter had already set the kids off to sleep. And with nothing else to do, this babysitter decides to watch some television. However, outside the window is this rather creepy, gothic-looking angel statue. At first, she tries to ignore it, but the fact that it was looking directly through the window at her caused the babysitter to simply call the owners and ask, "Hey, the statue outside your window, mind if I cover it or something?" To which she got the response of, "We don't own an angel statue."
A Mother's Call. This one's rather short, so I'm simply gonna read it to you right here. A young girl is playing in her bedroom when she hears her mother call for her from the kitchen. She runs down the stairs to meet her mother. As she's running through the hallway, the door to the cupboard under the stairs opens, and a hand pulls her in. It's her mother. She whispers to her child, Don't go into the kitchen." I heard it too. This tale simply displays the fears of every mother and child, and really anyone could actually have, about a mysterious stranger in their home. And it's the ideas that this creepypasta presents, not the actual content, that gives it its real chill factor. It's something that I didn't really realize was all that creepy up until I started pondering it a few days later. And to be honest, upon that, I realized that this may be the best creepypasta I've ever narrated. But for now, due to its short length, we'll leave it at number 2 on our slots.
Squidward's Suicide. An intern at Nickelodeon Studios got the chance to view new episodes of SpongeBob days before they aired. However, when they received the episode Squidward's Suicide, the studio was in for some disturbing imagery, such as still photos of dead children and realistic blood and brain matter, ending with a depressed Squidward after hearing some demonic being say, "Do it." He kills himself. The creator of the show, Steven Hillenburg, was furious, demanding to know what has happened, and to this day nobody knows.
The Perfect Child. The Perfect Child is a story about what happens when perfection is taken too far, and how mental illness may distort one's perception on reality, leaving us with some of the most gruesome imagery to be described in a story to this day. The story begins with the birth of a baby. The nurse seems to be infatuated with this infant child due to its rather odd birth. She then proceeds to suffocate the mother and try to take it for herself. She herself is then killed on the spot by another male doctor, who then takes the baby himself, leaving his own pregnant wife behind. He brings the baby home and proceeds to watch it, stopping only to feed it, till he himself dies of starvation. His wife then comes home to find a perfect child, and when her own baby begins to cry, let's just say she disposes of it. Once the police get involved, it turns out the baby was dead the entire time.
Simple Theory's My Little Pony. An article details the lives of 6 girls who all went to the same school and subsequently died on the same day. Surprisingly, the main characters of My Little Pony are similar to the 6 girls who died. The first girl is Samantha Gales, a shy, introverted girl who was abused regularly by her mother and stepfather. She overdosed on Valium and was the inspiration for Fluttershy. The second is named Janice Walters. She was rich, smart, and beautiful, with high expectations, but also with ignorant parents. Her neck snapped in a car crash. She was the inspiration for Rarity. Following was Alexandria Matthews, a competitive one who always pushed herself to be the best. After her parents gave birth to the son they always wanted, she was determined to be the very best, so much so that she ended up collapsing during a match due to heart complications. Rainbow Dash is most similar to her, and the list goes on. If you're wondering why the creator of the show would base her characters on these girls, well, maybe she wanted to give these girls closure by having their personalities live on. Maybe they're happy now.
Smile Dog. Smile.jpg is an interesting phenomenon centered around a photo of a smiling husky with straight, white, human-like teeth. The original photo has been circulating the internet in the early 2000s and even the 90s, but now is deleted by website admins whenever it is introduced to the website. Viewing the photo supposedly caused seizures and vivid, disturbing nightmares. It was introduced in various chain letters telling the reader to spread the word. A woman who experienced Smile.jpg killed herself after being haunted by the photo for 15 years.
Midnight Game. The Midnight Game is an old pagan ritual used to punish those who broke the law. There is a high chance of death when performing this ritual, so it is not recommended. The ritual involves a game where one were to hold a candle and walk around their dark house from midnight to 3:33 a.m. If the candle were to go out, the Midnight Man is near, and he will kill you unless you are able to relight the candle within 10 seconds. Only some have dared to perform this ritual and survive, and those who did survive are always being watched over by the Midnight Man.
Tulpa. A man spent 6 months participating in a psychological experiment where he would stay alone in a room and create an imaginary friend, a tulpa, while having sensors attached to his head to read his brain activities. It was difficult at first, but the man was eventually able to keep his imaginary friend present long enough without any distractions. Outside of the experiment, he'd imagine his tulpa breakdancing or juggling or whatever entertained him. He even began communicating with his tulpa, and the tulpa responded back. The researchers encouraged this, explaining that the tulpa can access his subconscious. The tulpa could paraphrase quotes from books he read, access all sorts of memories and information he'd forgotten. As days went on, the tulpa began to influence his actions and emotions. It could make the man do things he didn't want to do, such as attacking friends who pose a threat. The man tried to stop visualizing him, but couldn't. The tulpa would always come back more menacing, taller, angrier at the man for attempting to erase him. His breath smelled like spoiled meat, and he began torturing the man. It told stories of how he was going to kill everyone the man loved, starting with his sister. Then he smiled and said, "All thoughts are created," before walking out the door.
Hide and go seek alone. This ritual is used to summon wandering spirits by offering a doll as a human body. The ritual is a game of hide and go seek, where one were to turn off all the lights, use and name a doll, perform some requirements, such as giving the doll a name, stabbing it and saying that the doll is it, and hide. Many have performed this ritual. Some videos of it are even on YouTube where people have heard strange noises, knocks on doors, or even loud slams, despite them being all alone in the house.
Room 732. Room 732 seems to be a simple room with a dark past. One such guest seeks to venture into the room as he has some sort of romantic connection with it. The clerk insists he stays away. However, after some coaxing, he gives this strange person the room. We then learn that this man caused the death of a previous owner in the room. As he sits there sobbing on the bed he used to share, he hears the words in his ear, "I know." The Harbinger Experiment. The Harbinger Experiment was done by an unknown professor who wanted to find proof of a world we cannot see, the metaphysical. The theory was that it would be possible to open a portal between worlds, allowing 3 entities to cross over to our plane. 3 subjects were confined into 3 rooms for these spirits to latch onto. The professor started chanting through the microphone. Meanwhile, the ground began to shake and the air felt heavy. One subject even started screaming. The other subject mutated with grotesque features and began killing one of the security guards. Out of the 15 staff members, only one survived, and to this day he proclaims that this story is in fact true. It wasn't meant for cheap thrills, and he prayed that the reader would never experience the truth.
Warning. It was supposed to be a normal night. 3 guys simply sitting about and having fun, but eventually they happen upon a choice cassette tape. The tape depicts a downward spiral of some sort of bullied kid. As time goes on, we learn that he's on the run, because he's killing off those who wronged him in the past, and now is watching those marked by his. Warning. This tale is a rather long one, but the payoff at the end is just perfect.
The Lost Town of Deepwood. A girl and her family moved into the city of Middlesbrough, a new and small city with a sister town called the Deepwood. The Lost Town is a legend, a forgotten town that was left somewhere in the woods of Middlesbrough. While searching for the Lost Town, 2 teenagers come across a church. Inside was a statue of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, with realistic blood and a decaying face. A trapdoor is found, leading downstairs into another room with a desk and a large demon. The demon charges towards the teens and they run up the stairs to escape the lost town. The female protagonist moves to a new city, and over time, all evidence of Middlesbrough slowly disappears, and memories of it begin to fade away in an almost unrealistic fashion. 2 public schools, a local newspaper, and even the town website are seemingly wiped out of existence. The other teen begins to fade from memory, and all evidence of his existence proves to be forgotten, leaving the protagonist in a state of mental distress, even as her own parents seem to forget moving into the small town.
Flawed. We all have flaws. It's what makes us unique. Some people are stronger than others, some are smarter than others, some are taller and some are wider, but this person loves his flaws. At age 17, his mom was always working to make ends meet. His little brother distanced himself from the rest of the family, and finally, there was his little sister, whom he loved to death. In order to make his mom and brother more closer, this person realized that he had to give them both flaws to relate to one another. He went to his mom's room while she was in bed, got a piece of sharp glass, and cut into his mom's exposed shoulder up to her neck, then proceeded to his brother's room, where he tightened a rope around his neck. He went to his sister's room but found her awake. Asking her what was going on, he explains that he was giving his mom and brother flaws to make them special, and the sister asks, how can he do that? He then gives the sister the knife and tells her to stab him in the shoulder, back, and so on. He knocks out. After waking up, he looks back and couldn't understand the logic behind what he was doing. Maybe it was just one of his flaws.
Mr. Mix. The titular Mr. Mix is actually a video game character from the days of floppy disks. The game itself was rather uneventful, as there was a teach me how to type of game, alongside games like Mario teaches typing. However, this one seemed to be different. The sound effects were hit and miss, as they would range from loud girdle noises, annoying loops, PC speaker emulated sounds, or even a flat out hairdryer blowing off. As you played the game, it got insane, to the point where the requirements hit expectations like type 10,000 words a minute. The only way to actually beat the higher levels were through hacks. And well, there are no documented records of what happens after level 6, because those who had passed that level died in mysterious ways. And well, wait. There was one who lived. However, I believed he started dressing up like Mr. Mix himself, kidnapping younger children till his eventual capture.
Black-eyed children. Black-eyed people, or BEK, are people, mostly children, with black eyes, blue-tinted skin, and an unnerving feeling of danger to those around them. They're quite shy, but at times unusually confident, with the voice of an adult beyond their age. When seen outside, these black-eyed children will stop whatever they're doing and stare. Oftentimes, they will try to convince you to allow them into your home, and it is unspecified what happens afterwards if they are allowed in.
The Old English Village. In England, there's a quiet place called the Old English Village. It won't be on any map, even Google Maps will have it blurred out. If you want to find this place, well, there is a ritual involved. According to the ritual, the only way to get to the Old English Village will be to travel by foot, since the road is 30 feet away. The village can be found near the end of a dark, huge forest. All electronics will be disabled as you make your way to the village. You will be watched, as one wrong move could kill you. As you make your way through the woods, you'll find this wishing well. You must toss in a 1 pence, 2 pence, 10 pence, 20 pence, and 50 pence coins, as well as a sample of your blood. Do not leave the well. A large, grotesque figure will come up to you and ask for a handshake. Your instincts will tell you to run, but do not run. If you shake his hand, you will feel this surge of power before passing out. You will wake up in your house, more attractive, free from all diseases or viruses, and immortal.
Normal porn for normal people. Normalpornfornormalpeople.com, a website dedicated to the eradication of abnormal sexuality. The website looked very unprofessional and undone, as if the creators didn't care about the design. But It contained video links. One video called Peanut.avi showed a man, a woman, and a dog in a kitchen. The woman made a peanut butter sandwich for the dog to eat. Another video, LickedClean.avi, showed a repairman fixing a washing machine. When done, he talks to the owner of the house and leaves. The owner then proceeds to lick the washing machine for about 7 minutes. Most infamously, Useless.avi depicts a woman being tied to a mattress while a chimpanzee mauls her and then kills her, and finally proceeds to eat her. The website was supposedly taken down, but Useless.avi found its way onto a few gore sites.
Out with a bang. One day, while playing Cowboys and Indians with a friend, a boy pointed his finger at his friend's nose and yelled, "Bang!" to imitate the sound of a gun. However, his friend's head exploded with what only could be described as a crimson flower of red blood and brain matter, as well as beautiful glistening pieces of skull everywhere. The boy didn't understand what happened. It must have been a bullet that came out of nowhere. He tried to reason with himself that it wasn't him. And a few years later, after the funeral, the boy is approached by a small girl. The girl pointed her finger at him and said, "Hands up!" The boy put his hands up, and he giggled along with the girl as she said, "Your turn, shoot me." The boy felt incredibly uneasy, but proceeds to do so. He aims right at her stomach and says, "Bang." The girl's insides ruptured and she explodes like a water balloon. The boy could no longer take it, and the guilt that he caused 2 deaths just by pointing his finger at them got into his mind and subconscious to the point where he couldn't handle with the guilt. So, being a moral person, goes into his room, makes a recording, and decides to go out with a bang.
Mr. Widemouth. One day, a boy was diagnosed with mononucleosis and had to remain in bed all day while his body recovered. That's when Mr. Widemouth appeared from under his bed. He had large eyes, crooked ears, and a wide grin. Mr. Widemouth oftentimes talks to children and avoids their parents. He will try to convince you to do dangerous activities such as jumping out of the second-story house or juggling with knives. Mr. Widemouth showed the boy a special trail to a place where he takes all of his young friends. The boy wasn't ready to go all the way down the trail yet. Years after the boy had moved, he returned to his old house as an adult. He felt that Mr. Widemouth wasn't around anymore. His presence just didn't exist. Curious, he followed down that trail and discovered it led to a cemetery.
Faulty wiring. For this creepypasta, the idea of being watched is heavily influenced. The idea that you could be sitting in your home right now as someone sits there looking at you through a camera that may be in the crack in the wall you haven't gotten around to plastering, or maybe someone disguised your actual eyes in a photo that you haven't even looked at in years as a hidden camera. For anyone who's lived in an old house, you may know the noises that a old house occasionally will make due to old age. And as weeks went on, this one man noticed scratching against the walls, flickering electrics, and an occasional thump in the night. After his power supposedly ran out and things began disappearing, this man asked maintenance for help. The maintenance man inspected his old home, finding old video cameras in the vents and even in the eyes of some pictures. It seems that somebody rewired this man's outlet. To make it worse yet, the man moved back to his mother's home at the end. So, at least until he could find a new place. Fairly soon, though, a package was sent to his mother's doorstep. It said, "I like your new place." A whole lot better. Inside the package were all the things that went missing in his old apartment.
The dating game. A lonely single man went out to a speed dating event to meet women. In doing so, he met a woman with long, flowing black hair, green eyes, and a tight body in a black dress. After 7 months of dating, he proposed. They got married and moved in together. One day, he went into the basement to look for a computer to finish work with. The entire place looked horrid. The walls were molded, and the stench was awful. He quickly found an old laptop and powered it up. Once the laptop started up, he was greeted with a system message that led him to 4 videos. One video showed a man tied to a chair, and a woman cutting him and gouging him. Another video showed a boy being burned by apparently the same woman. The third video showed a young child strapped to a car seat being violently injected with a blue liquid. The child begins coughing, wheezing, puking liquids, dying. The final video was edited in the last hour. It was the woman facing away from the camera and speaking in a demonic tone. The woman turned around and was revealed as the man's wife. The man doesn't remember much afterwards. His attempted murder was stopped by 2 Jehovah's Witnesses who came by and stopped everything. The tapes are in police custody, and his wife was given the death penalty.
Lost tapes. In the 1980s, there was a boy named Sid who spent most of his day cutting and re-editing old VHS tapes. He was very talented at it. He was completely able to re-edit movies with happier endings or fix movies he didn't like, all because he could. Years later, when the internet arose, urban legends of lost episodes and tapes grew in popularity. Sid's house was bought by the bank, but nowadays the inside smelled strange, like electricity or burning dust from a light bulb. 2 bodies were found, not just dead, but dissolving to dust in the master bedrooms, most likely Sid's parents. Sid was found in his parents' garage with a hideous, wide grin and empty eye sockets. His voice was upbeat, high-pitched, almost cartoon-like. Not much is known about what happened to Sid afterwards, or what he's doing nowadays, but he's out there, somewhere.
The Pocket. Rumors spread about this abandoned old silo being haunted. Apparently, a farmer who lived inside committed suicide and haunts whoever visits. 4 skeptical friends visit the silo on a cold day to inspect it. After finding their way in, they stumble across a hatch. Inside, they hear a horrific screech coming from some creature. They leave the hatch and attempt to climb out an opening near the top of the silo when they hear the screech again. A claw reaches and grabs one of the 4 friends, ripping and killing him from the darkness of the bottom of the silo. The sound of bones cracking and screaming is revolting. The remaining 3 manage to escape but have to hide quickly because the creature is quickly following. 2 hide on the top of a tree, while the other finds a hole in the ground in which to hide. However, the creature finds him and rips his chest in half. He then speaks in a raspy, soft voice. "I am the Pocket."
No End House. The No End House is exactly what it seems. A house with no end. It all seems like fun and games when your friend dares you to go into the last house on the left, or when you and your friend visit the old haunted house at the end of the drive. Besides $500 seems to be a pretty fair trade-off for going into what seems to be just some sort of stupid haunted home with maybe a guy in a mask trying to scare you. But in the end, it turns out to be something more than just that. You see, as you go into this home, you may notice the doors seem to just vanish from sight. Every room gets harder and harder to make it through. You may think that you've made it out. You may think you're home, till it all goes to hell again. Some rooms may have you claw at a wall with your bare hands, while others may have you gut some poor kid to make it through. Some seem to take you outside, just for you to get attacked by something you physically can't even see. Maybe it will feel like a bee sting. Maybe it will be a snake bite. All you can do is keep moving forward, because if not, you may just succumb to the worst fate imaginable.
Pokemon Debt Channel. Where do your Pokemon go once you turn off the game? And what happens if the game is left off for too long and your beloved friend is left in some sort of never-ending limbo? Well, just like any human being, Pokemon apparently have a need for love and interaction, and without it, the fragile psyche of said Pokemon will be broken. This kind of psychotic interaction leading to the deaths of those involved? Besides, Rever wants to know if you like what he's done to the place.
Ronald McDonald House. The Ronald McDonald House tells the tale of the sick underminings of the Ronald McDonald Corporation. The story begins with our main characters from the big city of Detroit, mind you. We are told that he moves from foster home to foster home due to the fact that he's a rather mischievous young child who is very hard to keep under control. Till one day his own antics to get the better of him, and it's decided that he has the option between two separate things. He could either go to military school, or he could go to the Ronald McDonald House Charity, which, according to the story, the Ronald McDonald House Charity typically doesn't take in orphans or people along those lines. But who can always trust that? Eventually, we begin to see the honest-to-God sick shit that McDonald's does to get their food, such as crucifying children and draining them of blood, or rather grinding people alive just to get that sweet, loving meat that we need for our chicken nuggets. To make the creepypasta ever so much more disturbing, recent reports from the Food and Drug Administration of Safety has stated that they have found human meat in some of the McDonald's food, leading us to believe that there might be more to this cautionary tale than just meets the eye. "1999 is a blog about the infamous man who runs the TV station Caldon Local 21, a television station that only can be picked up by old rabbit ear television sets. This man runs shows such as Mr. Bear's Cellar and Soup and Spoon. Some seem innocent enough, while others were rather morbid. However, in the end, despite the names, you soon realize that all the programs are ran by a satanic middle-aged man who kidnaps kids to use in his shows. He even uses ads that play between episodes to encourage children to mail him letters so that he can solicit them onto his own property. First, why don't we go over the happenings in some of the shows? In one episode of Mr. Bear's Cellar, he chases some kids around while they seem visibly frightened. In an episode featuring a small hand puppet, he uses a pair of scissors to cut right to the bone of what is presumed to be a struggling kid's pinky finger. While in an unnamed episode, Mr. Bear sets fire to a poor kid's hand as we hear his shrilling screams. In the end, the cops broke into his home and found his setup, as well as a 16 by 16 foot ditch with many burnt corpses of kids between the ages of 4 and 16. Mr. Bear himself, however, has yet to be found, and it is said that he is still roaming the Canadian woods to this very day. The Devil's Game. I would like to note that this is a simplified version of what you're actually supposed to do. If you want these specific details, go listen to the creepypasta right here. For the rest of you, the Devil's Game is a simple ritual that will allow you to speak with the devil. Seems, simple enough, right? No hard facet rules. Well, not quite. First off, you're going to need several things that I mentioned before in order to speak to him properly. And again, to get that information or lists, again, check in the link. In order to speak to him properly and without the pesky trouble of inevitable mortality, you will need to get some supplies and certain objects in order to ensure spiritual and physical safety. Once you have your supplies together, you're going to need to break into a church. Old, new, liberal, conservative, it does not matter. All that matters is that it's considered the holy space of God. Once in said church, you'll set up your protections around, say, a wall-sized mirror, and you'll need to commit a sacrilegious act. Anything from destroying a picture of the Last Supper to turning a cross upside down will do. However, unless you want your Sunday church turning into the Spanish Inquisition for the next month, I'd recommend turning that cross upside down, as it's reversible once the session is over. Well, admittedly, if you make it out alive, that is. Once all that is done, all you need to do to speak to the devil is to wish for Satan to appear. If everything is done right and done before 12:30 at midnight, the devil will appear. Now here's where the game part of the devil's game comes in. Simply challenge the devil to a game of question and answer. And what will happen is that the devil will ask you a question and you'll answer it. Seems simple. Again, I know. Well, no, because you'll never get the chance to know if you answered it right or correctly. It will never be easy to figure out if you got it right, and after the game's over, you'll lose all recollection of any questions asked. So yeah, once you answer, and if you answered correctly, you'll get asked a question in return, and he'll have to answer as honestly as he can. However, if you answer incorrectly, he'll get the lie right through his teeth. Now, you'll never know if he's honestly giving you the truth or giving you lies. As I said before, he's like Hannibal Lecter. It's simple for him to get into your mind. All he needs is a little bit of facet information, and even if you don't believe a single word that comes out of his mouth, he's able to fuck with your mind like it's some sort of Rubik's Cube. But that doesn't matter though. You're smart individuals. You'll probably be able to beat him. You will always be having this constant feeling that maybe you got it right. There will always be some arcane trivial question of something that you think you know, but you don't really know, and that'll cause you to second guess yourself. Or maybe he'll ask you a personal questions like, do you resent your sister? And you'll answer, no, of course not. I don't resent my sister. Or, yeah, of course I'd return the money. But he'll know better. He'll know more than you do. And in return, he'll feed you the most insidious lies that he can think of in return. It doesn't matter though, because there are several issues with this game, and sadly, the issues with this game is that most who play it do not return, due to the fact that if any of your protections break, he'll be free and he'll do what he pleases with your body, killing you and dropping you in many pieces. Or he'll just simply drag your souls directly to hell, your body completely identifiable, looking as if you just died of pure shock. Or maybe, let's say that you decide to break one of the golden rules. None of the games are supposed to last longer than 66 minutes and 60 seconds. I know, subtle, right? But if the game goes on longer than that, he'll be able to take control of your body, and he'll simply use it to commit the most heinous act possible. But in the end, I guess that's what happens when you try to beat the devil at his own game. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for listening to the top 30 creepypastas I narrated. And don't forget to stay safe on this lovely Halloween. That is, if you can.